𝗨𝘀𝗲𝗂𝗧, and this is Index Office Hours 179. For all those who are new to Index Office Hours, and let me have a look, I think we have some new faces. Yes, we do. This is the town square where graph ecosystem participants come together to discuss the most important and relevant topics for indexers. As always, this is a conversation and we love participation, so feel free to get involved in today's conversation via text in the corner over here, which many people are utilizing at the moment, or by unmuting your mic. And if you're having any challenges there, please let me know and I will get that sorted for you. As a reminder, this is something that's going to be recorded and posted onto public channels like YouTube. So if you are concerned about privacy, please bear that in mind. And with that, let's get into our very packed and exciting agenda. So I'm going to kick it off with a shout out to GRTIQ, and we're going to shout out podcast episode 190 with Anne. Anne is the co-founder and CEO of 𝗨𝘀𝗲𝗂𝗧𝗂, which is a 𝗨𝘀𝗲𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗂 Media, which is a digital marketing firm that focuses on growing startups and emerging tech companies. So she has obviously a marketing background, a passion for the industry. She authored a book called SEO Battlefield, which is a comprehensive guide on search engine marketing. And so in this conversation, she talks a bit about UI UX SEO, the journey to founding 𝗨𝘀𝗂𝗂𝗧𝗂𝗂𝗧, and of course her views on the Web3 space and how we can get to some form of mass adoption. So if you're interested in any of those topics, go ahead and check out the podcast episode that Juan has linked right there. What's up, Mickey? Nice to see you in the chat. Yes, okay, looks like somebody recognizes the book there from Pinax. That's great. That's awesome. So yeah, go ahead and check out that episode right there. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Anna for our regularly scheduled Repo Watch section.
Thank you, Juan, and hello, everyone. So this week on Repo Watch, starting with execution layer clients, we have had new releases for Rust Ethereum, which we have added in the Repo Watch last week. This is release number 110, which introduces a new default engine architecture for Ethereum chains that was previously available via the engine experimental flag only. This release contains a break change, so the EXEX notification, so some of the EXEX notification methods have been removed, and users must now transition to new notifications. So please check out the release notes for this. And in terms of priority, this release is a medium priority for non-payload builder and a low priority for payload builders. Then we have a new Heimdall release. This is version 1.0.10, which is a low priority release that includes several cleanups and an addition of RPM packages. We are running this version on Polygon Amoy without any issues. Moving on to consensus layer clients. Here we have a new Teku release. This is 24.10.1, which is a high priority hotfix that addresses the startup failure when users use the validators proposer config option. This release is incompatible with Windows in case anyone is using that. On the graph stack, we have a new indexer service and agent release. So this is version 0.21.5. This is the TypeScript indexer service repo. This includes a high priority update that addresses a large memory leak in the agent. It improves tab functionality, and it adds new features to error logging and receipt validations, plus additional documentation for multiple chains. We are currently running this release in our Graph Arbitrum Sepolia without any issues. Then for the Rust version of Indexer Service and Tab Agent, we have various new releases. So before I go into them, it's worth mentioning that the whole release process has changed. So if before there was only one package, now that has been split into indexer service and indexer tab agent separate packages, so that users can run different versions for indexer service and indexer tab agent component. So with that, we have a total of 4 releases. So we have an indexer service version 1.1.0 release that includes configuration flexibility, metric improvements, and the ability to specify the Postgres URL connection as a one URL, or to specify different components separately. The configuration flexibility here addresses the ability to specify either a configuration file or environment variables as well, whereas before you always needed to specify a configuration file. Then we have indexer service version 1.1.1, which is just a bug fix to update the default level for logs to info. Similarly, an indexer tab agent includes the same updates that we had on service 1.1.0, so configuration flexibility. So now you can specify a configuration file or environment variables only. Includes metric improvements, some additional bug fixes with potential breaking changes in configuration handling and database interaction, and of course the ability to specify Postgres components instead of just Postgres URL only. And then the indexer tab agent 1.1.1 includes the bug fix to update the default level for logs. We are running all of the latest, so both indexer service 1.1.1 and indexer tab agent 1.1.1 on our latest graph 𝗨𝗀𝗀𝗀 𝗟𝗶 without any issues. I'm just gonna quickly check the chat. Before moving on. Okay, so Mark Andre is saying that indexer agent is failing. At first glance, it requires an unreleased graph node version. Okay, I'll need to double check that as well. Thanks for letting us know. And thank you for pointing out to that issue. Okay, and then the last bit of repo watch is our latest Launchpad stack. So on Launchpad charts, we have released new stable versions of 𝗨𝘀𝗀, Heimdall, Nimbus, Lighthouse, the Graph Network Indexer, and new canary versions of the Firehose Ethereum chart that we're still working on. And on Launchpad namespaces, we have new stable versions of Ethereum, Gnosis, 𝗨𝘀, Monitoring, Arbitrum, and Graph namespace. And this is all I have. So over to you, Abel.
Amazing. I just want to take an opportunity to pose a question that Matthew put in the chat to the wider indexer community. He's asking if anyone has had any problems with Arbitrum Nitro. Apparently, Jonathan from Pinax is trying to troubleshoot some weird RPC response issues. So if anyone has any experience there, now would be a great time to share so that we can maybe help the Pinax team out. Anyone tried it thus far? Any thoughts? I see Vincent typing in the chat. Same for Matthew as well. What experiences you? Okay. You crazy troll. That is a good suggestion. That's funny. It's probably when sending a boatload of requests. Okay. Cool. Well, let's do this. So people seem to be talking in the chat. We have an absolutely packed agenda today. So keep flowing in the chat, and we'll hand it over to Juan for Protocol Watch.
Hey. I'll be brief. So for Protocol Watch, we have the core dev updates. That includes updates for PNX, Semiotic, 𝗨𝗀𝗄𝗃, Geo, 𝗨𝗀𝗲𝗂𝗋, Streaming Fast, and Messari. All of them are linked. Again, as always, they are pretty lengthy, but they are all linked in the agenda in case you want to check any of them out. For the contracts repository, we have a few PRs that are Horizon related, mainly adding signers to the top collector contract. And there's a close one to ensure the subgraph NFT handles metadata with the zeros. No updates for the network subgraphs so far, and that's pretty much it for Protocol Watch. So I'm gonna hand over to you, Abel.
Boom, rapid fire. I think that's probably the fastest Protocol Watch I've heard thus far. So great job. Okay, yeah, thank you, Juan, and also thank you, Anna, for your respective sections. Okay, as I said, massive agenda today. Let's try and get through all of this. So first of all, we have the good fortune of having where is he? Gustavo, who's going to tell us about some new updates to Indexer RS and tap as well. So without further ado, Gustavo, feel free to take the mic.
Hello everyone. So I'm just sharing my screen real quick here so you can see my beautiful presentation here. Can you see the presentation?
Yes.
Yes, we can. Yeah.
Thank you. So I think Anna already covered a lot of the updates, but here I can give you like a better representation, a better visualization on what were the updates for TAP and Indexer RS. So the main update, the first update here that we have is that we have a new release scheduled for Indexer RS. So instead of having a really big bundled release, we are gonna release as soon as possible. So when you have a feature or a bug, when that's merged, we're gonna have a release. So anytime that you have an issue that you create on our repo, as soon as it's merged, you'll have a release and you can just start using it. And yeah. And also Indexer Service RS and Indexer Tap Agent are now detached, even though they currently have the same version. This might not be true for the future, so we're going to release one or another. We might have some fixes that is only for one, some features that is only for the other, and some that are for both of them. So configuration wise, both of them share the same configuration. So every time we have a configuration update, both of them are going to receive that update. So if you want to take a look at the repository, here it is. And also you can create an issue there in case you find a problem, or if you want like if you have a feature request, we would love to have that from you guys. So first of all, let's go for the features. Most of the features are related to quality of life for configuration. The first one is we have now new database configurations option. So we used to have only this first option where you need to provide the Postgres URL. But now we also have the second option where you can, instead of having the whole URL by yourself, you can have the host, the port, user, password, and database. Another feature that was requested is that some of you that were trying to configure the using environment variables were having some trouble because we have the tagging where you would need to provide Indexer service prefix for the environment variables or tap agent prefix. And then if you want to share the same environment variable for both of them, the same way that we do with config, you couldn't really do the same way. So now you have Indexer underscore prefix, and it's still backward compatible. So older prefix still work, but now you can just use a single one, and it should work for both of them. We also, now that we have good experience with environment variables, we also removed the need to have the config arg. Now, if you just try to run without the config, and you are missing any environment variable, you're gonna be told about what is the field that is missing, and also suggesting you that you could also use the argument config. Now also we have injected user-defined environment variables. So before that, we would need, if you want to have environment variables, you would need to use the prefixes, but now you can mix part of environment variables, part with configuration. Some injection. So for example, here, if you have a configuration, you could inject your mnemonic, or also you could just inject the password and the rest could be plain text. And because of this feature, we created a migration configuration, which is currently on our repo, which basically is one-to-one, almost one-to-one mapping from the older environment variables to the new configuration. So this new configuration, you can just drop this new configuration and use your old environment variables, and mostly it should probably work. There are a few things that will miss, especially related to the scroll subgraph. We have a guide for that thing, what is missing. So yeah, now it's really easy for you to upgrade and start using Indexer RS. But we still recommend using the configuration over time. So this you could just use as a starting point, and then you can migrate. This is, of course, the recommended way for you to configure your stuff, because managing a lot of environment variables can get a little bit overwhelming, and probably a config file is way better. Here are some other features and fixes that were already mentioned by Anna. But we fixed a bug where you had to previously provide the Rust log to actually see logs, but now it's info by default. So you're going to see all the logs, log messages, errors, warnings. Specifically for tap agent, we have a better tracking of pending fees, pending receipts. So you could have some problems related to not having valid receipts for a rev request, but this was due to the tracking that we were doing, and now we have a better tracking, and hopefully you won't see more of these messages. We also added warn, and we are denying senders if someone removes from the database. So it's really important that in case you remove any blocking of the database, you are going to be warned that you might lose your funds. So we strictly want you to never do that. And if you have any issues with your indexer denying a sender, you should probably reach that sender. I mean that gateway, and so we can fix that kind of issue. Another fix that we have is that, or features that, in case any of your new receipts are failing, we are going to star that reason so you can understand what is the problem. For Indexer service, we added metrics for Prometheus and Grafana. They are a little bit different from the other one, from the previous Indexer service type from TypeScript. The difference is because we're now using the recommended naming, and because of the breaking change, we could just update and have better naming for that. And for Indexer agent, we have two bug fixes. First of them is that we fix an error where it was not fetching all pages for the subgraph queries. So this is related to a pagination. This would happen especially when you have lots of allocations open at the same time. And we were trying to redeem escrow accounts. We were trying to redeem revs in case the escrow account didn't have enough funds, and now we want to try to redeem them. So you won't burn your revs trying to redeem in case there's not enough funds. The only reason why this could happen is if you remove from the database the deny list. But even if somehow this happens, you won't lose money. We're just waiting for the funds to go to the escrow account, and then you can redeem normally. And yeah, that's it from my side. I'm handing over to you about.
Amazing. I want to give some time for some Q&A. And I also want to let people know that we're going to do another session where we're going to talk a bit more about TAP and have a few people come over and maybe talk about ways that you could, certain gotchas, etc., things that you can, be aware of. So we've got a question here from Chris. It's a long one. Feel free to read it out, Chris, if you want, or I can direct Gustavo to the chat, whatever's easier.
Yeah, happy to read. Hey, Gustavo. So the question is, and it is a long one. I just wanted to kind of lay some context. So obviously at the protocol level, like paying into the protocol is permissionless. But my understanding is with TAP, the payment recipient, so in this case the indexer, needs to effectively allow list new gateways by specifying the TAP aggregator endpoint for the gateway's signer key. And so either, new gateways would need to approach indexers to update their TAP configuration to include that endpoint, or core developers would need to coordinate and release new software defaults, so that indexers kind of inherit that new config. So my question was, is there a path or is there an item on the roadmap to try to remove this permissioning dependency so that, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes, there is a path. I'll send a link to one issue that we currently have, and I would love to have your thumbs up related to that. First, let me take the link I'll send you, and then I can keep talking about it. Sender, gateways. Okay, here it is. So we are planning to create what we are calling a gateway discovery feature, and also verification protocol. So the reason why we don't have this from the beginning, like allowing anyone to provide the TAP aggregator, is that somehow you need to trust that the TAP aggregator is running, and we didn't have any verification. So for example, you could have TAP aggregator endpoint, but when you try to aggregate that your receipts into a rev, it would fail. So the problem with that is, of course, you would lose this initial. So the first rev, or like the amount that you're willing to lose, you would actually lose for every bad gateway. So that's why we decided that in the beginning, indexer they should trust the gateway, or at least they should allow them and provide the TAP aggregator by themselves. We had some we thought that we could have at least like a registry of gateways, but at the same time, that might have the same problems where you would still need to trust that the list is correct, that kind of stuff. So that's why we have this proposal of gateway discovery and verification protocol, where a gateway could approach an indexer, send its step aggregator, and try to send a few queries and gain trust for that indexer, or show the indexer that it is able to aggregate into refs. And this is the issue that we are tracking, and you can understand how we plan to do that. And I would love more discussion about it, a thumbs up, and also to increase the priority of that. So I hope I answered your question, Chris. Any other question?
You did. Thanks, Gustavo. I'll definitely have a look at that issue. Cool that you guys have been thinking about that and have a plan laid out.
All right. Does anyone have any other question related to TAP? All right. About Abel.
Okay, thank you very much, Gustavo. Really,
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah. Thank you very much. Oh, is there a bit of a delay on my side? Hope I sound good. So apologies if I interrupted you there, but yeah, thank you so much, Gustavo, for your section there. Really do appreciate that and answering the question very diligently. As I said, to the indexers, we're going to have another session on tap very soon. So if anyone has any challenges, we can try to get that addressed. Okay, next point on the agenda item is next item on the agenda, I should say, is Ricky. We have the good fortune of having Ricky come over. He is a data science wizard. So he's going to teach us all about analytics from an indexer perspective and share a tutorial he recently came up with. So without further ado, Ricky, feel free to take the mic.
Thanks so much, Abel, and thank you for letting me speak here. It's a pleasure and a place where I've learned a lot from myself, and I'll do my best to make the next 10 minutes a good use of your time, hopefully. So yeah, as Abel mentioned, for those that don't know me, my name is Ricky, and I'm a data scientist at 𝗨𝗀𝗄𝗃. I recently started my own indexer to basically try and understand all the data more hands-on through that indexer and other learning purposes. And I've worked on basically automating parts of my indexer and building useful data tools for the indexer community kind of in the process that, I would like to share today. So I'll start by sharing a tutorial I made, which walks through pretty much every aspect of the automation I have so far for my indexer. The tutorial is meant for complete beginners to the programming language used here, which is R. And it's somewhat similar to Python, but I think everyone on this call would be able to follow along and understand with that tutorial. And hopefully get some value out of it, or at least some of the other data tools I'll show later. So I think I'll jump straight into things here. Share my screen. Sorry, I'll do window. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. So I'll start here. So yeah, just kind of jumping straight into things. Essentially, oh, sorry. Okay, so this first section basically walks you through using real query volume data on subgraphs that come. Basically, this data comes from the quality of service subgraph, which provides a more real-time view than the on-chain data does. So basically, the goal of this first section is to just give you all the tools you need to understand the steps that come later on in the tutorial. And the automated indexer execution side will be the next section. So this first one, I just wanted to point this out as like a good resource already, where I have basically full daily data for every subgraph, starting around, I think, September 20th. And you can see, you have like query fees, query count, and then you have it done by date and subgraph ID. You could just like extract the CSV extract of this right away. But I will show a better tool for this later on. So I'll just kind of keep working through this. So yeah, like after that, I basically just show some tools for like summarizing, transforming data, which is this section. And then I start to kind of walk through like some visualizations. So this is all pretty recent data. You can see the latest data point is October 14th. It would be more recent, but we had some issues on the quality of service subgraph today. So sorry about that. But yeah, it kind of just walks you through like some different aspects of making a visualization. Here you already have like an interactive one, for example. Then you can kind of start doing more interesting things. So yeah, this just kind of labels like programmatically the low point and the high point. So like none of this is hard-coded. Then this section is kind of interesting. This like already does a forecast. And again, I think like I tried to do my best to like really make it digestible. So I hope it is. But here you can already see like this real forecast for the main arbitral network subgraph. And we can kind of see how it's trended ever since I set it up and kind of the trend it's giving. It seems on a good trend recently. I don't think that's me, but hopefully that continues as more people look at this data that I'll keep kind of showing you. So yeah, what else? Yeah, so I'll just kind of jump to the next section. Sorry, this can happen because the previous section has a lot of data. So yeah, so here you kind of start to jump into like the real things that like execute on my indexer. So I was gonna walk through the section in more detail, but I only asked for 10 minutes, so I'll probably just do a pretty quick skim through here, and just kind of in general. But like you can see, I kind of break down like every step. So here we start to do like GraphQL queries, and we start to see how that works. And then yeah, we pull like the current epoch to make sure that we only close ones in the current epoch. It doesn't really matter, but then here you can see that this tutorial, as I like create the tutorial, and I like it's basically like some code. I wish I was sharing my full screen so I could show, but it's just code, and then I just run this, and it executes my reallocations and unallocations, as you can see here. So yeah, that's kind of how it works. So you're just kind of moving on here. You can see this next section is like, yeah, real data of like which subgraphs are synced on my indexer at the moment. If I scroll a bit more down, I think, yeah, there's also like, yeah, the blocks behind the lag here. And then let's see. So yeah, this is just kind of figuring out like, okay, which subgraphs can I allocate on, and like which ones do I have synced? So like my automation only allocates sort of already synced subgraphs. So that's kind of what that section is doing. Then here, I think every indexer should be familiar with this. Basically, here we're pulling for every subgraph kind of like the signal and allocated tokens, so we can calculate the indexing reward proportions for each subgraph and find the best deals to allocate towards. And then this next section, so in here we kind of go one step further than I think some indexers necessarily do, where we look at the query fees for like different subgraphs, and we kind of pull that in from the quality of service subgraph, and like basically identify like what are the best opportunities from that point of view. Part of this code you're seeing right here is somewhat incomplete because I was working on a process where I upload the data somewhere that's kind of more convenient for all of us to use. But I ran through some limitations with Google Public Cloud Storage, which was my first thing. Right now, I'm working on. I have some data that I've managed to upload to Orbis DB, which is on Ceramic, and I've loaded some data, but I still have to do a lot of work to automate it and see if it's even a good solution. But yeah, for now, I do have several tools that hopefully can make the process of downloading the data you guys care about just like a button click versus pulling a bunch of things. So yeah, let me just kind of wrap this one up. So yeah, this, yeah, so here we just pull like how many tokens the indexer has for like new allocations. And again, yeah, just GraphQL queries pretty much throughout. This looks at like, yeah, which allocations the indexer already has, so we don't allocate more tokens towards those ones. And then kind of once we've done all those exclusions, we start to calculate like, okay, which of these subgraphs, like which ones should we allocate towards? So yeah, my current mechanism, I outlined it here. It's not the most complicated. The main gist of it is that I just go 100 GRT at a time through like the best the best deal essentially, and then I add 100 GRT towards that one. Then I just recalculate, okay, like what's the next best deal now after making that change, and then just kind of keep going through that until I run out of tokens to allocate. And then this last step, this does the actual allocations. So you can see some are bigger, some are smaller, and then eventually there's a lot that are like 1,000 GRT, which are just subgraphs that are high query volume, but not necessarily like high indexing rewards proportion. So yeah, next, let me walk through some of my other tools. So this is a website I've been working on. So yeah, let me just jump in here. So yeah, here you can kind of see the tutorial we just walked through is like here at the top. Sorry, formatted it a bit badly. But then yeah, as you go through, there's this other tool. So this one allows you to download the most recent 100,000 rows directly from the quality of service subgraph. And then you can easily download the data, and then you can see some visualizations around like what are the highest increases in query volume lately, and then you can kind of filter it by chain and use that to find some good query volume opportunities to index in. So I'll let that load, and I'll just kind of keep going down here. This one needs a little bit of work because it has several issues, but the main thing is that doesn't cover everything on the curation side. But essentially kind of gives you like your APR here that you're currently making on your signal, tells you which ones are low performing signals. And just to clarify, this is based on the 10% you make from query fees as a curator. So this tells you like these ones are the ones you should essentially unsignal from based on like the query volume they produce. With the goal being like you can make a good APR just through this opportunity, and you can kind of see the best opportunities here. Most of these like insane ones here, these are subgraphs that have indexing rewards not enabled on them. So that's one of the things I need to fix in here. And you can't signal on them directly through the studio, even though you could technically get very good APR on some of them. Let's see. And then, yeah, let me just keep going through here. So this last tool, this one you actually have to click fetch data, and then you can kind of see the progress down here. But this one basically just allows you to extract like raw kind of full historical data for your indexer, which could kind of help you keep track of things like rewards over time. And yeah, you could also take this and use some of like my tutorial, for example, and the visualizations and like do interesting things with it without necessarily waiting for me to get to all of those things. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh wait, sorry, let me show this one. So yeah, as I said, this one just shows you like these are the top subgraphs overall by query volume. You can kind of see them visualized over time. Sorry, actually, yeah, I don't know if that will load again, but yeah, it's probably better to show the full version. But this one kind of shows you the top increases. So it's like, oh, okay, these are the subgraphs that I should maybe look at. And yeah, you also have the data here. And then this other tab just has like the full raw data. Again, this just pulls the latest 100,000 rows from the quality of service subgraph, I think in the 5-minute intervals. And it is just using my API key, but it's not a lot of queries. So you can just use that as much as you'd like. And yeah, I think that's all I have to share for now. Hopefully not super over time. I have a lot of other tools planned that I'm working on. So yeah, feedback from this group would help me a lot actually. So if you have any, definitely please do share that with me. And yeah, last thing I'll say before I stop talking is I am doing this kind of as an independent contributor, just on my weekends. So yeah, I just wanted to clarify it's not like node capacity or anything. And yeah, if there's kind of any questions around that, I am planning on making a Know Your Indexer post soon, and like kind of like my goals with what I'm doing and things like that. And yeah, hopefully, I hope to be able to contribute to the Indexer community. And yeah, that's all I've got.
Holy smokes, Ricky, that was incredible. As you can see in the chat, I don't know if you've got a chance to look, but the indexers are completely blown away. You've clearly taken it to another level when it comes to analytics, and by the looks of it, we might need more of this. We might have to have a dedicated I08 session to help other indexers level up in terms of analytics, because yeah, everybody's loving it. So we have a couple of questions, so maybe let's focus on that. So there was just a simple question from Matthew saying, seems like from the chart, the volume on the weekends is lower, but yeah, I guess that makes sense. But in case you have anything you want to add to that, feel free to, and yeah, Matthew, maybe if you want to specify which chart you're referring to, maybe that would be helpful.
No, it's just whenever one Ricky had on the screen at the time where there was like bumps in the chart. So you see it, they had an upward trend, but it was not a smooth upward trend. So I was just guessing that the weekdays are higher than the weekends. That was all.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. And like full transparency, I've mostly focused on like just making the data available and doing the things you're seeing, but yeah, haven't done a ton of digging even into like leveraging these tools to like the best that I could. So yeah, a lot of these, I mean, I have a pretty much infinite list of things to work on. So yeah, happy to dive into more specifics and yeah, share more if there's an appetite for that.
Perfect. And then there was another question that I'm scrolling up to. How much GRT are you allocating? Do you think the allocate 100 GRT at a time strategy might run into performance issues with indexes with a lot of GRT to allocate? Is a question from Vincent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah, that's a really great question. So yeah, great question, Vincent. So yeah, like within my script, what I do is I establish a maximum cap threshold where I only allocate up to 10% of my total stake size towards one single subgraph. No particular reason for that. Other people can play around with different things, but that's kind of what I settled on to kind of maximize rewards without kind of necessarily exposing myself to a ton of risks of those rewards going down. And I think the other aspect is just increasing the rate at which the automation runs, where kind of more intelligently can start closing out kind of allocations of the same epochs, and yeah, maybe getting more sophisticated with it than what I'm doing. But the tutorial like literally shows what I executed my allocations maybe like 2 hours ago, so you can see what it does. And what it does is it has a 10% maximum per allocation.
What do you think? Is that useful to answer the question, Vincent? Or do you have any follow-up questions? I see Vincent's typing, so we'll just give him some time. Good. Okay, great. Amazing. Yeah, again, yeah, I totally agree there, Vincent. Awesome presentation. So it sounds like indexers have a bunch of questions on this, and it's worth doing another session. But for the purposes of trying to squeeze in all the stuff that we have in for today's agenda, let's put the questions in the chat, and for sure, Ricky, I'll circle back with you to schedule another longer session, because yeah, there's tons and tons of alpha that you shared that I believe a lot of indexes could get a lot of value from. So appreciate you. Thank you so much for coming on there. And yeah, folks, feel free to type in the chat any questions you have. Alrighty, now we are going to move into the Kubernetes section of today's conversation. Hopefully you have enough time. It seems like it might be a bit tight, so we might have to spill over into another session, but let's make the best of the time. So we have Matthew as well as Guillaume, who's going to join us today and teach us all about Kubernetes. They are going to cover a variety of topics. I don't know if we have time for everything, but there's testing Kubernetes apps with Kind, bootstrapping a cluster with Flux CD, and then using Helm with Flux to deploy Launchpad charts. So I guess it's up to you guys which ones you want to prioritize, seeing as we don't have the most time right now. But yeah, feel free to take it away.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully, I'll try to make it brief. I'll share a link to a repo too that we have. So this demo, I'll also share my screen. This demo is meant to be pretty replicable, so you can try out and test. So it's supposed to resemble what we do at Pinax, just scaled down. Because yeah, honestly, the Pinax Kubernetes setup is more complicated than it needs to be. So this is meant as an introduction, how to try Kubernetes, how to develop, how to do stuff with the stack, right? So for
Guillaume, can you turn up your microphone
Guillaume.
volume?
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Oh yeah, the volume is way down.
Oh.
Okay, it should be good now. Yeah. Okay, so hopefully you got all that. Yeah, the Whisper network. Sorry about that. I'm having trouble with my mic. I just changed my my audio setup, so pain points as usual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guillaume. Now it's super loud.
Is it? Oh, it's
You
super loud now.
No, it's yeah.
Oh,
Like, to the
okay.
point-
Wait. Yeah,
Yeah.
I might have overdone it. Sorry. Yeah, it should be good
It's
now.
okay.
Hopefully. Oh, I know what's up.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, okay, no, now it should. Okay, yeah. That was my bad. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it must have been so loud.
Hey,
Yeah.
thanks so much.
Sorry about yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry about that. Please just don't send me your medical bill if I destroy your ears. Great. So about that, so this is meant to be like an introduction to Kubernetes and how we do things in Pinax just scaled down, because obviously this is meant to be an introduction. So we have a repo that I wanted to share, which is here. I'll share the link. So this is meant to be replicable so that you can try it out yourself, play with Kind, try a bunch of stuff. So let's copy this link here. So, to start this demo, I'm using Flux, Kind, and a tilt file. So this is just let's do make setup here. So this will create a Kubernetes cluster with Kind. So this is not meant for production. It's more meant for development, but it's Kind stands for Kubernetes and Docker. So basically what it's going to say is as long as you have Docker installed on your machine, it's going to create a cluster that you can develop on and test stuff and actually deploy applications in Kubernetes. So there are many tools that you can use like like Minikube, but now I'm using Kind, and I'm just going to do make up. So this is going to be good. So all right, let's go in my tilt file. So this cluster is going to be deployed, and it's going to be deployed with a bunch of components. So Cilium Envoy, load balancer IDs. It's also going to bootstrap Flux. This is more technical stuff. So let's look at the cluster going. So everything is going to be deployed automatically from this cluster. They should also be reproducible, like I said, on your machine. And as far as the repo goes, basically this presentation was meant to be a brief introduction and just answering questions as we go, because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be in Kubernetes, and I'm sure people have a lot of questions about how we do things. So for this cluster, basically, when working with Flux, the point is to have all your infrastructure as code, right? So instead of doing Docker Compose, you can use Flux and Kubernetes to scale and deploy as many blockchains or as many components as you want. Because obviously, the more blockchain and the more nodes you have, the harder it is to scale with Docker Compose, and the more manual the process becomes. So if you switch to Kubernetes, it makes it much easier to do new blockchains and add more stuff to your cluster, and everything is kept track in this repo here. So for the infrastructure for this demo, we have a monitoring stack. So we have the Kube Prometheus stack for monitoring. We have Launchpad charts. We have a Postgres operator to actually bootstrap Postgres databases inside of Kubernetes. We have Cert Manager to do TLS automatically with issuers. That's something we do at Pinax too. And we have automation to update charts automatically. So some charts are going to be deployed as OCI charts, which is just like Elm supports this natively now since a few versions back. But basically you can push your charts sort of as container images. And so you can add automation on these charts. So if a chart will be updated, if there's a new version of a chart released, then your cluster can scrape the image repository, get that chart, and update it in your cluster automatically. And so you can have a bunch of automations like this. Right, so speaking of which, the cluster should be going right now. Yeah, there we go. So we have a bunch of stuff deployed. Now we have, like I said, Cert Manager. We have the cloud native Postgres operator. Now we have a Postgres database that's going to be deployed in the cluster. We have Cilium that's deployed, which is going to be the CNI, the network stuff, and a bunch of components for Flux, for Kind, and the monitoring stack here for Grafana, Prometheus, and stuff. So now the database is up. Once the database is up, we should see the graph node deployed. So to deploy, let's create here. All right. So to add new components to this cluster, basically, we just use a customization here. So let's look at graph node. So basically, this is the resource that we add. It's a graph node. It depends on the database that we provisioned with the Postgres operator. And we can say like, oh yeah, so the chart that we're going to want to deploy is the chart located here at apps launchpad graph node. So let's have a look at that. There we go. So this here is the Helm repository that we want to use. So it's just the launchpad chart for the graph node. And so we specify a version here, the Helm repo we want to pull from, and then the values we want to use for this Helm chart. So as you can imagine, deploying new charts is going to be pretty easy with this deployment. So you can add here a graph network indexer. Actually, let's make this here. And add your chart here, and then Flux will automatically pick back up stuff. And as you can see, now the node, it's here and it's actually running. And so you can have a look at monitoring too, or this here. Let's port forward it. I'm trying to cram as much things as I can in a short amount of time. So I'm sorry if this is a bit, really, it's a bit rushed, but let's look at the monitoring. So we have a bunch of monitoring here in the cluster for your graph and also for the Kubernetes cluster itself. So if you want to look at how your nodes are doing, how the networking is doing, right now there's not much data because the cluster is fairly new, right? But as the cluster keeps living, new updates are going to be pushed and then new data will be here. Let's not look at this, probably the core DNS. Yeah, see that there's some data that's going to get populated. But yeah, this is pretty much a setup that you can play with and try. If you have any question about this setup, please just ask and I'll try to answer. Obviously, this is a bit rushed and a bit fast, but I can hopefully answer questions you might have or how we do things at PNX, because this is an inspiration of how we actually do things just scale down, like I said. But yeah, this is kind of how to structure your repo with Flux and to update stuff automatically and deploy new blockchain and deploy Helm charts with Launchpad.
Thanks, Guillaume. Yeah, that was definitely rushed. So, Abel, I think we're going to need to run through this again in a future session. But the idea here is trying to build something that lets people get started with Kubernetes to get over the Kubernetes is complicated and I don't have time to look at it problem. So this way you got something to play with. So is this just all running on your local desktop machine?
This currently, yeah.
So it's pretty amazing. You can git clone that repo and get all this stuff running without too much work.
Yeah, hopefully it should automatically work.
All right. Any questions?
Happy to run over a little bit as well, considering that we didn't have much time. So guys, fire away with questions. And of course, as I said, it's important to reiterate, we'll definitely schedule another session with way more time. So this is more relaxed. Might even be worth going through the demo again once people have had some time to look over it themselves and running through it, and in a more kind of like measured pace. So we'll definitely get around to this. Apologies to the Pinax team for cramming everything in today's agenda. Very much gonna do another one of these.
Yeah, so I think what'll also be helpful is whatever questions people have on getting started. What information do you need to know to get going with Kubernetes? Right. So there's a lot of concepts that Guillaume went over very quickly. Talking about infrastructure as code, and the system automatically deploying everything as and when you change things in GitHub. So no running kubectl or manually deploying things here. So it also takes a different approach than how Launchpad does things. Different people have different approaches to do things in Kubernetes. Probably, if we were to survey 20 indexers who all use Kubernetes, you would get 20 different flavors of how that works. So part of the idea here is to show parts of what we're doing, and then we can help explain why things are done that way. So feel free to dig in and ask those kind of questions about why things are done the way they are.
Just as a minor clarification there, Matthew, Launchpad is super modular, and there are quite a few components. There are obviously Launchpad charts, which you guys are using in this example.
Absolutely correct.
But yes, this is a slightly different approach to how Launchpad namespaces orchestrates those charts. Excited to have discussions about the trade-offs in those approaches.
This is the great part about Launchpad, is that it's very modular, so people can pick up the pieces that they like and do other things if they want something else. And Vince wants to do things another way, which is totally fine. And I think Vince, I know you talk to a whole bunch of different people who've got different opinions on how things work. So
yeah, I just think this is a great intro, no matter what it is, though, because you can watch a lot of intros into things and stuff like that, but truly the only way is to play with it and bang your head against the keyboard. And I think this is a great way to do it.
Emacs versus VI. Versus Nano. Yeah, okay. Okay, Abel, I think we're done for today. It's going to get into religious wars now, so we'll pick it up another time.
Gotcha. Yeah, sounds good. I've said this a million times, but worth mentioning. We're going to loop back on this, so rest assured, all your Kubernetes questions will be answered, and we'll go deeper and deeper into this. So the aim is to hopefully help, as Matthew alluded to, alleviate some of the fears, concerns, answer the questions of people, so that more and more you can get comfortable with Kubernetes and see the value and the power in it. So rest assured there'll be more of these sessions, and we'll get Ricky back on as well for a longer session. Wow, what an agenda. Holy moly. We got through everything. We really do appreciate each and every one of you for showing up, especially those who presented today. This was incredible. I learned a ton. I found it incredibly valuable. Sounds like you guys did too. And of course, every single Tuesday, I should say, 6 p.m. ETC, will be here, same time, same place, to share more alpha with you. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you again next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.